Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of the program Thaqalayn Talks. I'm Ata, the host of this program. During this holy month of Ramadan, we'll tackle different topics related to the holy month of Ramadan, Islamic lifestyle, the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran, and fasting. For today's episode, we have invited Sister Zainab. Assalamu alaikum, sister. Welcome to the show.
Salam, brother. Thank you for having me on again.
You're welcome. Sister, for today's episode, we want to talk about an interesting topic, and that is al-Qana'ah, or contentment. Before getting to more details on how we can apply Qana'ah, or the concept of the contentment in our daily life, let's have a general definition. How do you define al-Qana'ah or contentment, sister?
So there are two definitions. If we go with the definition from sort of, Western psychology, for example, that's been defined as something such as being in a state or a situation where our needs are fulfilled, even if it's just temporarily, so that we feel a sense of maybe ease or joy. From the Islamic point of view, of course, I'd say that contentment is a little bit different. So contentment, for example, at the highest level, is basically being having a feeling of happiness, contentment with whatever Allah decrees for us, whether we are in suffering or whether we have been given something that's very joyous.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. So, as you said, according to Islamic teachings and according to Islamic system of laws and akhlaq and ethics and morality, which I think al-Qana'ah is among the most important ethical virtues or the merits a Muslim must enjoy in his daily life. So it is very much against extravagance or, for example, greed. I mean, whenever we talk about al-Qana'ah, we can say on the other side or opposite to that, we got concepts like greed. So does it mean to, for example, use less or little, or for example, to be satisfied with whatever you have in your daily life, or no?
Well, as I said, there are different stages of it. So, for example, there's an interesting quote from Socrates, which in a sense fits in very nicely with our Islamic teaching. So, which is that, so he who isn't contented with what he has, mm-hmm. so what we have right now, wouldn't be contented with what he would like to have. So there's this idea that if we're not content and happy with where we are right now, whether it's, let's say, the house we have, the car we have, the job we have, what our monthly income is, then even if we are given, let's say, a bigger house, a bigger car, we're still not going to be content, because most likely we'll then say, well, no, I've got a slightly bigger car, my house is slightly nicer, or maybe I can get something even better.
Mm-hmm, that's all right. And do you believe that this is a nature of the human beings to desire for more and more in their lives, especially in today's world, in this hectic, fast-speed world, that the people, I can call it, are busy with so much embellishments and the decorations in their world. So they are not going to be satisfied easily. So being content in the modern world seems to be a very difficult task, sister, isn't it?
Yes, I agree with you. So on the one hand, we have what you describe as our material world, which is like a consumer culture, because we always see in the media, on TV, in movies, even just online and social media, or observing our neighbours, maybe our friends, we see things that maybe we like, we don't have. So that's one part. And then we have to also remember the human fitra we have an inclination in us that we do love things that are beautiful, so we have a tendency to appreciate beauty in a sense. That doesn't mean that we should be translating that into, obviously, piling up material things, but we do also have that. So if we see something that's beautiful as opposed to something that is ugly, mm-hmm. We're probably more drawn to that anyway, just naturally.
That's right. But when we refer to the sayings and the statements, the narrations and the ahadith of Prophet Muhammad and the infallible Imams, we find a different dimension or aspect to the concept of al-Qana'ah. For them, al-ghana is like a treasure. As Imam Ali alayhi salam says, al-ghana'atu malun la yanfad. Al-ghana'a, or contentment, is like a treasure which is, we can say, is not going to be finished in any way. So in their look, qana'ah seems to be, and contentment seems to be, a kind of a backbone for their Islamic lifestyle, and without it, a Muslim is not going to have a true Islamic lifestyle. Is it true?
Definitely, and obviously, as you said earlier, so if we do achieve this idea of this contentment with what we've been bestowed, allocated by Allah, that means we can then fight against things such as greed, and maybe envy. So it's hugely important to sort of nurture, to cultivate this idea of qana'ah.
That's right.
in us.
If a person is going to observe qana'ah in his life, what would be the main results in his lifestyle? I mean, from tomorrow, if I, as a Muslim or a non-Muslim, okay, I want to observe more qana'ah in my life. First, what are the practical guidelines? And second, what would be the main effects?
So the guidelines, and obviously we have different sayings from the Imams, is that basically we should be satisfied with what is enough. So we want to avoid excess.
Very good.
And for example, there's a very nice narration from Imam Abada, who narrates from the Holy Prophet. So apparently during one of the battles, a group of people went to him, and and obviously they were consulting for advice from him, and the Holy Prophet said to them, do not build what you will not live in. So it means we shouldn't be building houses if we're just going to leave them empty, or we don't need them, maybe they're too big. Do not collect what you will not eat. So we should not be greedy in some of the items that in how much we need to actually buy for ourselves, and fear God to whom is your return. So in a sense, this is obviously the idea of just what is enough, what is sufficient for our needs. And this is of course the idea in Islam, that everything in moderation.
That's all right. Also in a beautiful hadith, Prophet Muhammad said that ma'ala man iqtasad. In fact, it means that a person who is moderate in his lifestyle, in his consumption, will never be in need of anything. I mean, and so many of the problems of today's people in the world is because they want to exceed, or they want to go into extreme in their desires and wantings of the world, especially the mundane, materialistic world around. That's why when they get in, they have to spend more money, they have to get a loan, they have to pay back in debt, they are indebted to this and that, okay? So in this case, the people are going to be away and away day by day from the concept of al-qana'ah, and to be satisfied and content with their life.
Exactly. And obviously in some of we have hadiths that emphasize on this. So we have some famous in a lovely collection called Exalted Aphorisms and Pearls of Speech. It emphasizes obviously, because you've asked what does contentment, what does this qana'ah actually achieve? So for example, a person who is content does not get depressed. Whoever is content, his worship becomes good. So contentment has an impact on our worship. Whoever is content with what Allah allots them becomes needless of the people. And contentment, obviously, in one of the most beautiful sayings, it's the sign of the God-wary, so the pious and the God-wary. So contentment is that virtue that sort of marks them and designates them.
That's right. As I said, these questions and these problems are not, we can say, limited to today's world. Even at the time of Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali alayhi salam, we had such luxurious lifestyle. For example, there were some kings who used to be living luxuriously under the name of Islam, going to extremes. They were extravagant in using Baytul Mal and the public funds. When Imam Ali got the ruling and got the leadership, he tried to cut off all these routes of extravagance. And when Imam Ali alayhi salam was asked about Hayat al-Tayyiba, how do you define the pure life or lifestyle? He said, Hiya al-Qana'ah. Be content with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. But now the question is this. Does it mean not to try your best to earn a living and a good living? Does Qana'ah mean these two or not?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, because obviously, so we'd also, we are aware and we're told that, so as a Muslim, there's nothing wrong in wanting to live well and have enough to provide for the family, enough to contribute and share amongst the community, for example, to be able to donate to the poor, to the needy. But obviously we're also made aware that there's always these different ranks. Because I was thinking about, well, so what does Qana'ah mean, for example, if we're thinking about the Imams? Because we're told that, so if we want something more, if we want something better, make dua, ask for things, ask for everything from Allah.
Yes.
And that's good. But then I was thinking to myself, well, I couldn't quite imagine myself, imagine that, for example, Imam Ali, any of the other Imams would have sat and asked of more from Allah.
Yes.
They would have probably been engaged in asking, thanking Allah, and we know that, we're told that they would spend all night just thanking Allah, asking for forgiveness.
That's right.
So there's this very high level up there somewhere, and this is again, and obviously you've mentioned Imam Ali and some of the statements he makes about, well, obviously how we should live our life.
Yes.
And contentment in particular, very beautiful. And he makes one very pertinent statement, and that's in Sermon 81, which has also been referred to as the brilliant sermon.
Yes.
And I think he delivered this during the month of Ramadan, and when people heard it, so they were weeping at the meaning and depth of this sermon. And there's one sentence I took out from that, and that is, certainly, this obviously goes towards contentment. And what it is that we are allocated, what it is that is ours. Okay. And this is just, as he says, certainly the share of every one of you from this earth is just a piece of land equal to his own stature and size, where you will lie in his cheeks covered with dust. And this obviously brings all our desires, all our wishes right down, back down to what we should be thinking of. And obviously, we can bring this in too, because if we remember where we're going, so the hereafter, that also tempers and maybe controls some of these desires that we have, because that's really what it's about. They say that we, to reach to this contentment, it is about controlling the desire. So we want to control the greed, we want to control, and also with that envy. Because if we no longer have these desires for all these even better material goods, the envy will also disappear.
Yes, greed and envy, that's all right. And as I said, this is one of the most important problems of the modern man. You know, desiring for more and more in terms of the food consumption, in terms of the I don't know, even furniture, buying a house, a new car. It's not going to be finished, because every day a brand new thing is out in the market and you're looking for. And with all these commercials that are inviting the people to buy more and more, you know, and to spend their money in all these markets. As you said, but with Qana'ah, with observing Qana'ah in your lifestyle, and that time, you are going to taste the kind of happiness and pleasure in your heart always. It's going to make and establish a kind of discord and disagreement among different classes of the society. And nowadays you could find that some people in the world, very rich, some people very poor. You know, for example, in the African continent, some parts of Asia, you know, you can find really poor, destitute people. So they are looking for more and more, without being content. And at the same time, you can find some people in poor places of the world who are content with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And the beauty of contentment and qana'ah, as you said, is the pleasure and the light that is inside. So a person might be poor, but because of qana'ah, his look in the world is beautiful. A person might be rich, but because he is not content, he's always greedy and looking for more and more, okay? Exactly. It leads to different diseases of the soul, heart too, like gluttony, like wanting for more. Isn't it, sister? Okay.
Definitely.
So, how do you think that, especially in today's world, Qana'ah and Islamic teachings on Qana'ah can help us in order to live better, sister?
Well, should I start right at the top with a very famous example?
Very good.
Because I was trying to think, because I posed to myself the question, can I think of a very famous person just as an example of this? And I thought, and there's a very famous saying from Sister Zainab, of course, that all she saw was beauty. So this goes into this idea that whatever happens, we only see it as a blessing. And actually, so I had a look at the very famous sermon she made in the court of Yazid.
Yes.
And obviously, what she's expressing, so she says, speaks to the people and to Yazid. She says, oh, do you think we've become humble and despicable owing to the martyrdom of our people on captivity? Do you think that Allah's taken His blessings away from us?
Yes.
So in here, there's this idea that, well, just because we are going through difficulty and hardship and suffering, that doesn't mean we're not blessed. So, and this, of course, is the very high level of contentment that we need to rephrase.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you very much, Sister. Up to now, really fruitful discussion. I benefited very much from your speech. We got a question from Sayyid Ali. He's going to pose it in verbal form, and let's have listen to that question. Okay, Brother Ali, we are waiting for a question verbally.
Assalamu alaikum, can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Crystal clear.
So I'm going to present an argument which kind of can, annihilate the whole topic, but I want to see what's your reaction. It's rather long, so please bear with me for a minute. When it comes to simplicity, I cannot think of anything but minimalism and slogans like less is more, which I guess was a reaction to the modernism and rejecting building sophisticated life, houses, and so on. But these ideas appeared after the Industrial Revolution in the Western countries, when they'd already reached an advanced level of complex and sophisticated achievements. So I'm thinking maybe this is not the right time to encourage Muslim community to be content and happy with what they have or have not, because, they should still develop their countries and bring their community ease and comfort through technology, as the Mr. Atal said, manufacturing, home appliances, furnitures, you name it, and everything. Then we can have a discussion regarding the virtue of contentment. So I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong about this, so please help me out. To sum it up, I would say, is it the right time to talk about contentment in Muslim community now? Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, Brother Ali, for a nice question.
So should we, maybe if we address the issue of minimalism, the topic of minimalism. So the way I understand minimalism is, in a sense, a design trend. So it's a particular way of thinking that sort of commenced in the West, I suppose, maybe even not quite 100 years ago, but definitely, it's obviously mid-20th century, maybe even a bit before, maybe a bit after. But minimalism, in my mind, turned into, it really was about design, so not having too many things, in what we call clutter.
Yes.
So eradicating too many things in one's life. But obviously those things, minimalism, I think, translated into having a very beautiful, luxurious environment, just with fewer things that maybe looked very simple and very plain. So I'm not sure that that's really related to contentment.
Yes.
I think this was really just, again, a trend, and people could then maybe feel that they were part of this new trend, and they would compete with each other, because obviously when a trend starts, a new design trend, then everyone wants to be part of that. And minimalism hasn't quite gone. It's still there to some extent, but there are lots of other trends in design and
That's
attitudes.
Right. Okay. And for sure the holy month of Ramadan is a good example of those people who want to apply the rulings of Islam, especially contentment in the lifestyle. I mean, through this hunger and thirst, you are going to be content with what you have. This is a divine test for all the people. That, for example, if during the other months of the year, the hunger and thirst is going to happen to you, or your fellow brothers and sisters and fellow men all around the world, you can, for example, feel the same conditions and the circumstances of the people in which they are in. For example, nowadays we could see the people of Gaza and the children under attacks, under bombardment, without food, without pure water, okay? So at least the holy month of Ramadan, being content with what you have, can help us in order to feel better their situations. So in terms of modernity, I think modernity has affected the lifestyle of the Muslims too, isn't it, sister?
Oh yes, so modernity, it's so these are like trends in a sense, and trends go around the world, of course, through our media, through
Yes.
TV, through movies. So it's not something we can avoid. So whether we live in the West,
Yes.
as Muslims or non-Muslims, or whether we live in Islamic countries as Muslims or non-Muslims. So yeah, and obviously this feeds into the idea of just being after the dunya and the worldly things, and being very focused on these worldly things.
Okay, that's all right. We got a question from Brother Amin. Salam alaikum. When considering a partner for marriage, should one prioritize contentment or prefer contentment or a healthy balance of aspirations and desires? Which one? Thank you for your fantastic program. So which one?
Okay.
Is it the balance, for example, healthy balance of aspirations and desires, or no, we prefer contentment of the partner, for marriage especially?
Right, so I'm going to put in there, I'll treat this as a serious question, I'll put in there a third option. Maybe it relates a bit to these two options that were given. And this is, because that's just in the last week or so, I read something about one of the most important things when choosing a spouse is to make sure that their goals in life, so their Islamic understanding is the same. So for example, their piety, so the piety of the two people should be on the same level. Some people in a sense are what we would call more religious than others. Some people, for example, live in the West, but they'd really love to move to an Islamic country. So if that's really important to them, their spouse should have the same goals. So I'd put that as the first one. So maybe that goes into aspirations.
That's all right. We have a very beautiful ayah in the Holy Quran, Surah Hadid, ayah 20, which somehow refers to the situation of this world we are in, and somehow invites the people to be more content with what they have and satisfied. I would like to read out the English translation. It is Surah Hadid, ayah 20, which says that know that the life of this world is mere diversion and play, glamour and mutual vainglory among you, and rivalry for wealth and children. Okay, exactly like the same we have it today. Like rain, whose growth impresses the former. Then it withers, and you see it turns yellow. Then it becomes chaff. Whereas in the hereafter, there is forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His approval and a severe punishment. The life of this world is nothing but the wares of delusion. So you can see all these attractions of the world are compared and resembled to a delusion, which are, that's right, like a rain. Whose grows and produces the farmer. But then it withers all the way. It becomes yellow with the season, with the sickness, with losing your health, with losing your money. Today you are the head and president of our organization. The day after you're kicked out of the organization, okay? You are fired, you have nothing. So now, who is going to be trusted on? Is it the people? Is it the system? It is not. By the sense of Qana'ah, it is surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is going to be supporting you and protecting you. Isn't it, sister?
Yeah, and obviously as you were reading that, I had to just think back to the quote from Sermon 81 in Hyderabad.
Yes.
That obviously Imam Ali said, oh, that we are due, what belongs to us, we're entitled to, is just that small parcel of soil that we're going to be buried in.
That's all right.
And so all our houses and cars and everything else we've piled up, our children are no use to us, really.
That's all right. Also in Surah Taha, ayah 131, we read that, do not extend your glance toward what we have provided for certain groups as a glitter of the life of this world, so that they may test them thereby. So it is a test, the glamour of this world. The provision of your Lord is better and more lasting. I mean, the true rizq, provision and sustenance that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be ever lasting. But if you are going to observe Qana'ah in your life or content with what you have, some people might say that if you see somebody misusing or abusing his power and inviting us to Qana'ah, what your reaction should be? Are you going to be silent because of the Qana'ah, or no, you must react harshly to the people who are abusing their power? What do you think, sister?
Well, we have the one thing that is, as Muslims, that we're told that, for example, if we allow ourselves to be oppressed, and obviously if we also observe oppression of others, so even allowing ourselves to be oppressed is actually a sin. We're not allowed to do that, so we actually must. And there's three things we can do. So at the very least, in our heart, we need to be aware that this is not right, and we need to, I suppose, speak out in our heart. Then, if we have the means and the ability, we should speak up about being oppressed, about others being oppressed. And obviously the highest virtue is if we can actually take action to stop the oppression. So we don't really have an easy option as Muslims. We sort of need to act.
Okay. And of course, sometimes we can't say not being satisfied is also recommended as a good thing. Not in terms of being greedy, but in terms of aspirations for more and more knowledge, for example. If you want to, for example, follow a scholar in a corner of the world asking different questions, okay? So such discontentment is also encouraged by the scholars and the ulama of Islam. Not to be greedy, not to boast with your knowledge, but go for more knowledge. This has been the tradition, the sunnah of the past scholars. For example, from one corner of the world, they might travel barefoot to the other part of the world in order to enjoy the presence of a scholar and an alim. They were not discontent with what they had in their own city, okay? So they traveled and they, because they tolerated all these hardships and afflictions. So discontentment, in one sense, could be good too.
That's true. That's a very good point. I think it's a different type of contentment. Discontentment that probably is totally okay.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Thank you very much, sister, for a nice elaboration. Any final remarks regarding contentment? You can just straight talk to the camera, to the dear viewers, sisters, brothers and sisters who are watching Thaqalayn Talks.
Oh, I pray that everyone who's listening, that all Muslims, especially with what we observe happening in Palestine, that we're able to derive extra lessons during this month of Ramadan to increase our contentment with the huge amount of blessings that we have in our lives, inshallah.
Inshallah, that's all right. Okay, I would like to, we can say, finish this program with another beautiful poem from a famous poet, Nasir Khosrow Qobadiani, who says that نمالی دیدم افزون از قناعت نه از پرهیز برتر احتیالی. I've never found, we can say, a wealth better than contentment, and I see never a better solution to the problems better than piety. So piety and contentment, it is taqwa, it's better to say, call it according to Islamic teachings, are two important solutions to the most of the problems of today's world. Thank you very much, Sister Zainab, for a nice elaboration regarding the concept of contentment. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you so much, brother, for having me on again.
You're welcome. And thank you very much, dear brothers and sisters, viewers all around the world who are watching our program in this holy month of Ramadan, Thaqalayn Talks.